The Dred Scott case. Dred Scott was the name of an African-American slave who lived with his master, Army Sergeant John Emerson, in Missouri, which was a slave state. Sergeant Emerson went to Illinois, a free state, and lived there for 9 years, bringing Dred Scott to live with him. They also spent some time in the Wisconsin Territory, which was also a free state. After a long time living there, Emerson was called back to Missouri, and he and Dred Scott went back to their home state. Then abruptly, John Emerson died and left Scott all alone. Pandemonium soon erupted, as Scott, after living in a free state for so long, thought that he was a free man and no longer a piece of property. Court case after court case, Dred Scott and his abolitionist lawyers fought for his freedom. On 1847, Dred Scott made his case against Miss Emerson, his then owner. He lost the case based on hearsay evidence provided to the court. Although he lost, the judge granted him a second trial. On 1850, Dred Scott made his second case against Miss Emerson. This time, though, he won himself and his family their freedom. Miss Emerson did not like the outcome, so she appealed the case in the Missouri State Supreme Court. Because of the appeal, Dred and his family lost their freedom. A quote from the judge from the Missouri State Court says, "Times are now not as they were when the previous decisions on this subject were made." Dred Scott was determined to get his freedom, though, and in 1850, Dred made his case to the St. Louis Federal Court, but this time against John F.A. Sanford, Miss Emerson's brother. Again, he lost. Out of determination, though, he appealed his case, and this time the case was taken to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Dred Scott case was now escalating with importance. The case had already been to small courts and a federal court, and now it would be going to a huge stage, the Supreme Court. At the Supreme Court, 7 of the 9 judges decided that Dred Scott should remain a slave. After this was decided, Judge Taney also stated that Scott was not an American citizen, therefore he is not entitled to a trial at a federal court of the Supreme Court. After this happened, many anti-slavery groups were upset and started clashing with many pro-slavery groups. While this happened, things fell into place so that Abraham Lincoln could win the election of 1860. After Dred Scott's incident occurred, Sergeant Emerson's wife divorced the dead Sergeant Emerson and remarried to a northern congressman, Calvin C. Chaff, who opposed slavery, which led Miss Emerson to disliking slavery. Since Miss Emerson inherited her deceased ex-husband's property, she freed Scott on May of 1857. Scott, though, would not have a long life of freedom, as he died a year later of tuberculosis. The Dred Scott case was not just between the Emersons, Sanford, and Scott, but it also started many controversies, led to the secession of South Carolina, and allowed Abraham Lincoln to be elected as president in 1860.